What's up everyone, and welcome back to Top 5 Central. Today we're looking at the top 5 deadliest roller coaster accidents. Now we posted the worst waterslide accidents, and I said if we broke 10,000 likes on the video, I'll post the worst roller coaster accidents, and so that's what we're doing today. If you do go on to enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like as it's greatly appreciated. Let's see if we can break 5,000 likes on this video, but with that said, let's get right into it. Number 5. James Hackemer had fought in the Iraq War, so you would think the Ride of Steel should have been child's play for him. However, despite being assured that every ride at the Darien Lake theme park could accommodate him, the double amputee's trip on the 206 feet high roller coaster was a tragic one. Neither the seatbelt or the iron bar restraint could keep him properly in his seat, and as the roller coaster approached its first peak, he fell out of the front row, falling to his death. Even worse, his accident was only the first to occur on the ride, as years later, a man who was later said to be too large for the lap bar to restrain him also fell out of the ride, fracturing multiple ribs. All in all, for a ride that is supposedly to celebrate Superman, it's really anything but heroic. If I visit, I'll definitely avoid sitting in the front seat though.
Daniel Summer was on the Ride of Steel at about 5:30 p.m., about 10 cars back. In one of the first cars of the roller coaster, he watched an amputee get in. It was Sergeant James Hackemer, who lost both legs to a roadside bomb in Iraq 3 years ago. So far, the park isn't saying much about it.
An adult male guest came out of the Ride of Steel roller coaster, and we are saddened to report that the guest has passed away. We are currently investigating the situation with our safety experts.
Number 4. Superhero roller coasters seem to be more zero than hero when it comes to accidents, but at least in this case, it wasn't the ride's fault. After losing his hat on the Batman ride at Six Flags in Georgia, one teen decided to scale 2 6-foot fences into a restricted and dangerous area, all so he could get it back. There were plenty of signs stating that the area was off limits and his parents were just a little while away. However, he decided to try his luck with terrifying consequences. He was struck by the ride, which had reached a top speed of 50 miles an hour, and the force separated his head from his shoulders. The park was closed for a full day out of respect, and police couldn't even inform the victim's family until an autopsy was completed, as he was hardly recognizable. Once again, this wasn't the ride's first tragedy, as 5 years before, the park's groundkeeper was trapped in the restricted area and killed. I'm not even lying, the leg of one of the passengers hit him in the head at full speed and killed him as well.
Despite a horrific accident the day before, cars still streamed into Six Flags Over Georgia Sunday. And there were still screams as people rode at least one roller coaster, but the Batman ride remained closed. One day before, a 17-year-old boy, now identified as Asia Ferguson of South Carolina, was decapitated and killed after he was struck by the ride moving at roughly 50 miles an hour. Authorities say Ferguson had just ridden the coaster and had jumped 2 fences afterward to get a hat he'd lost. The accident was on the minds of people heading to the park on Sunday.
He must have known that he was going somewhere where he shouldn't have gone. But it's a tragedy that he was so easily able to get over those fences and get in.
Number 3. This next accident happened on a ride specifically designed for thrill seekers, but in this case they got far more than they bargained for. The rocket ride was 230 feet in the air when one of the cables holding it snapped, leaving passengers literally hanging by a thread. As if that wasn't enough, they were left hanging upside down, hoping they would be rescued before the strain on the remaining cable got to be too much. Thankfully, they were saved and brought to the ground before anyone else could get hurt, but it still sounds like a really terrifying experience. Ironically, the last accident at the Russian theme park also involved a snapped cable, causing a 12-year-old girl to have severe injuries on a trampoline attraction in the park. If you ever decide to go here then, it might be a good idea to keep your feet firmly planted on the ground, as something bad may happen.
Take a look at these pictures coming up. 10 lives left hanging literally by a thread. Really serious story this, with an extreme thrill ride on a rocket-like attraction almost ended up in tragedy. These are the latest pictures through to us here. Visitors to one of St. Petersburg's amusement parks were in for a nasty shock as a cable snapped on the ride, leaving them suspended in midair 70 meters above the ground. Luckily, rescue teams did make it to the spot just in time to free the stranded passengers, literally hanging upside down there. Such a close call. It isn't the first.
Number 2. The Luton Castle theme park in Scotland apparently closed in 2010 due to the recession, but it's what happened 3 years before that really made headlines. Mark Blackwood was just 18 when his job as a ride operator turned from a dream job to a nightmare as he fell 140 feet from the Rat roller coaster. According to witnesses, one of the cars failed to start, but as he went to call maintenance, another attendant told him to just give it a push. However, his hand somehow got stuck to the car as he pushed, so he was stuck holding on for his life as it climbed the first hill. Eventually, he was forced to let go and drop to the ground, apparently landing on his head. It sounds pretty gruesome, but the park was cleared of any wrongdoing, denying that any health and safety procedures were violated. Either way, the park is now a ghost town, a fitting tribute to the tragedy that occurred. Here's our honorable mention. As you probably already know by now, Scottish theme parks seem to attract chaos. Disaster literally struck Glasgow's M&D's park just last year too. 6 fire engines and 6 ambulances were called as several gondolas on a tsunami-themed roller coaster had detached from the rails and fell 20 feet onto another ride below. Thankfully, there were only 9 passengers on the ride at the time, but many of them were children and the awful weather conditions only made it a scarier experience. Lots of people were trapped under their gondolas on top of the other ride, and one girl was even stuck upside down until she got rescued, making it a truly terrifying accident. However, none of the kids were seriously injured, and the fact that it was the 3rd accident on that exact ride has meant a full investigation will be taking place. In the meantime, it might be best to just stay home.
The damaged upturned carriages from a roller coaster packed with families. Eyewitnesses said the tsunami ride derailed shortly after it set off, before falling 30 feet onto a children's ride close by.
I turned around and all I could see was one of the carriages hurtling towards the ground on top of one of the other rides, which was a children's ride, but I'm not sure if anybody was on that ride. But then once it had landed, all I could see was people stuck, some upside down.
People there said there was silence, followed by screaming. Parents fearful their children were among the injured.
Number 1. Of all the accidents on this list, the worst one of all happened way back in the 1970s, and a tragedy most people have tried to forget since. London's Battersea Park Fun Fair has been a huge attraction since its opening in 1951. But 20 years later, it became famous for an entirely different reason. 31 people had crowded onto a 3-car wooden roller coaster, and at the top of the first hill, it detached from its chain. It immediately fell backwards under its own weight, hit a tight turn, and completely derailed. The carriage furthest back was actually crushed completely. 5 children died, 2 at the scene and 3 later in the hospital, and 13 people were injured, making it the world's worst roller coaster accident. However, some good did come out of it, as the outrage led to a review of theme park safety, even if the park's creators were cleared of all charges.
The tragedy at Battersea Park, almost a quarter of a century ago, occurred on an old wooden roller coaster that was operated by my father. It was a combination of malfunctions which shouldn't have happened.
All the front was full up and the back had some in it, children and adults. I think there was a man who died. Most of the people at the back all got crushed up now because it come down backwards.
Well, we went round the corner and the first carriage had just reached the top, and then I think the cable broke, I don't know, and it all came backwards very quickly.
And there's our video on the top 5 deadliest roller coaster accidents. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe so you see whenever we upload a video. Also, if you have your own top 5 or top 10 idea, feel free to just show me a handy form in the description to submit it. With that said, thank you all for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.